maybe you're like me. You probably have experienced Earth Day more times than you've been alive. It's now in its 54th year. I remember very vividly watching a commercial of people who went through a drive-through fast food lane, got their food, ate it, took all the debris from it and threw it right out the window, and it landed at the feet, and gradually the camera came up. A Native American man, and all you saw in the camera was a tear going down his eye. Do you remember that? Remember that commercial? Well, I never forgot that. And I wanted to ask you, which president among the 45, I know that Biden is supposed to be 46, but remember that one fella from New Jersey, Grover Cleveland, had two separate terms, so they count him twice. Of those men, which one did more for the environment than any of the others combined? Who? Yes, you're right. That's right, Richard Nixon. And often when we trounce him because of Watergate, we don't realize, wait a minute, he started the EPA. And I thank you for that. I knew a man, he's a good friend of mine. He was an emergency room doctor, chief of a medical staff at a New Jersey hospital. It was the Overlook Hospital in Summit, New Jersey. He drove a very nice car, and he owned a mansion, and he possessed a lot of luxuries. Yet all was not right with his soul. For years he believed that science and reasoning could solve the problems of the world. However, he was confronted by the fact that the patients he was treating and the world he was observing led him to the conclusion that the world was dying. Now, paralleling his growth awareness of the elimination of living things on earth was his recognition of the disturbing increase of cancer. Once again, which president did more to eradicate cancer by designating funds that would help for research of cancer? Anybody know? Which president donated or designated that much? Anybody? Here we go. Richard Nixon. I mean, it's really true. Now, a few months before going on vacation, my friend had admitted some women, 3 women, to the hospital. All 3 were in their 30s. All 3 had died. Later, he wondered about the lifetime risk of breast cancer. So he looked it up. When he started medicine way back in the day, 1 in 19 women got breast cancer. And at the time that he saw those 3 women, now it was 1 in 9. And now, a few years later, it's 1 in 7. And the most dramatic increases in young people, there have been increases in asthma and autoimmune diseases, autism, and other maladies, which many believe have direct links to environment. No one can assume that these trends can continue unchanged. Oh, everything will turn out all right. I don't think so. We're living in a critical time in our history. We're overpopulating the planet. We're polluting the environment and draining the earth of its precious resources. At the beginning of the 20th century, which was 1900, we had 1.6 billion people. Today, we have 6.6 billion people. And when I was a little kid, I used to drink water from the watering hole that we used to swim in. And there's a stream, and today we worry about the amount of fish we can consume, that we might not accumulate that much mercury in our bodies. How many people here have ever had a dog or a cat in the past 10 years? Wow, that's a lot. Well, as you know, I did. Did you know that the cancer rate for dogs and cats are higher than humans? A lot higher. Dogs and cats are 4 times likely to suffer from breast cancer and 8 times more likely to develop bone cancer. My Milo died of liver cancer. Now, what are we doing to our planet? Who's to blame? Well, in all my years of living on Earth, I have not cut down one tree in the Amazon rainforest. Not one. I have not dumped mercury into the ocean. Nope. I have not put lead into paint. I have not killed a baby seal like the Japanese kill those dolphins for its hors d'oeuvre luxuries, or for its furs of an elephant to get their tusks. Nope. The problem has to be other people. One tendency is to blame someone else. Blame elsewhere. Why not? This way we don't have to take the blame. We're living in an age when no one wants to take responsibility for anything. When's the last time you ever heard anybody say, I'm guilty, I did it, or whatever? Everyone seems to be saying the buck stops there. Testifying about the meltdown of the financial sector, the former Federal Reserve chair portrayed himself innocent bystander. Beyond his control. The former head of Citigroup described the implosion of Wall Street as a crisis nobody saw coming. And by the way, as we speak, since the year 2008, there has not been one indictment, not one trial, not one conviction of anybody in those banks for what they've done to the American people. I think that is a shame. The Vatican blames the press and anti-Catholic sentiment for its troubles, rather than admitting who's responsible for getting their own house in order. The Vatican Bank used to be a laundromat, and the lawsuits against the Roman Catholic Church for hiding all that pedophilia among their clergy are piling up worldwide. Well, in the early days of the Iraq War, when the Iraqis celebrated Saddam Hussein's downfall, everybody took credit for that. We did it. We got him. Well, they didn't realize something. There's the problem of the Sunnis and the Shiites, which was the counterbalance against Iran. And there was no weapons of mass destruction, were there? The very premise for the war. Suddenly, nobody wanted to take responsibility. Not one person. And the whole fiasco was blamed on faulty intelligence. Yeah, right. Yeah. Faulty intelligence. Yeah. I'm sure that was it. The same dynamic seems to be in play when we talk about the damage that we're doing to the environment. They are responsible. The people who make the laws and the owners of mining companies and the people who turn woodlands into condos. However, as long as we point the finger elsewhere while not supporting laws that protect our fragile earth, and as long as we fail to examine the impact that each one of these things is having on Earth, the downward spiral continues. We're in trouble. It's not just Flint, Michigan with all that lead. Where you can buy unleaded gas, but you can't drink unleaded water. How well are we caring for ourselves? How well are you caring for yourself? Where is she? Is Carol Baker here? There she is. Carol Baker, on your sink. You remember I stayed at your house? Well, I was feeling pretty low that one day, and I walked up to the sink. It's a true story. I walked up to the sink, and right there is a little Post-it note. Be kind to yourself. Tell me I'm not, that's still not there. Well, I want you to know I went out of that house, and I bought myself the greatest Dairy Queen cone I could ever buy. She's right there. It was the power of suggestion. And I thank you for that. Can anybody tell me when baseball had its greatest moment in the Bible? Anybody? Going once. Going twice. Here, I'll tell you. In the beginning. Of course. The book, all right. The book of Genesis. I know that you're listening, see, but I get to groan. We're reminded that we're in charge of planet Earth. We are. Be fruitful and multiply, says the good book. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish and the birds and every living thing. And far too many people use these words as a license to plunder the earth. There's no such passage there that warrants that kind of behavior. The Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann pointed out that the dominions we're to exercise is like the dominance of a shepherd to feed the animals. The dominion has nothing to do with exploitation or abuse. It has everything to do with securing the well-being of every other creature and bringing the promise of each to fruition. The Unitarian Universalist understanding of dominion must be in harmony with how we value our inheritance. The one who rules is the one who serves. Lordship means servanthood. Humans are ordained over everything for its well-being and enhancement. We're not called to be exploiters, but rather stewards of the earth. The point of the passage is that all human beings have a tremendous responsibility. We're put in charge of this planet Earth and expected to be good managers of the resources. How well are we doing with our lofty authority? Or as Dr. Phil says, and he's really not a doctor, and he asks his guest, "Well, how's that working for you?" Well, for several years, I used to drive Toyota Camrys, and you all know my history of those two tickets that I got, right? Coming here on my audition sermon. Well, they rode well, I felt safe driving them, and then I don't know what possessed me, but I bought myself an electric Volvo. You know the old phrase, woulda, coulda, shoulda, had, oughta, didn't. I should have looked at a hybrid car much more closely, but I didn't. But it was a move in the right direction, I think. Perhaps maybe an example of the kind of decisions we must make. Each day we can do something to conserve energy, do a better job of caring for the world. Some of us can turn the thermostat down a couple of degrees and wear warmer clothes in the winter. When air conditioning season rolls around, we don't have to keep the house at walk-in temperature. Where you walk in, it's like, are you freezing meat in here? What are you doing? Well, that's expensive. Most of us leave too many lights on. Some of us have televisions running when no one is watching. And I wish all the homes had electric meters in prominent places to show how much energy we're constantly using. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to run your dryer? Well, it's a lot. You might think about that and get out the old clothesline. Remember they used to have clotheslines? Well, we used to say, we're better than that. No, we're not. That was not so bad. Unfortunately, many of us base our decisions not on what's best for the environment, but on our own, what would you call it? Hubris. I'll give it that. I can afford to keep my house warmer. I can afford to run my dryer. I can afford to pay for the gas in my fuel-inefficient car. However, if we seek to deepen our spiritual lives and do a better job as stewards of the earth, our decision-making will not be based on our wealth. No, it'll be based on whether or not we're fulfilling our role as caretaker of what is deteriorating right before our very eyes. And that is dangerous. And we're in bad shape. What changes would take place in your daily behavior if you were constantly asking yourself, am I viewing what I'm presently doing as truly caring for the planet Earth? Would you walk more? Would you make one trip in the car to cover all those errands instead of back, forth? Or would you buy more locally grown produce that doesn't go across the country? Would you recycle more and throw away less? Interesting statistic, no matter how you might want to judge it, China the entire country has no garbage. No garbage. They recycle everything. Everything. I thought it was amazing. Every person gets something back from recycling. Now, that's pretty good, isn't it? That's really good. Would you take a shorter shower? Use fewer paper towels? Plant a tree? Eat less beef? Swear off bottled water? Fix leaky faucets? You take the world and its resources for granted, or do you think outside of yourself and respect this amazing earth? In the past couple of generations, many people have woken up to caring for the planet. It's essential. Part of their spiritual journey is disregarding the warning signs as nothing new. I mean, we all know Francis of Assisi, don't we? I mean, it's really strange that the Pope's name he took was Francis. Well, Francis of Assisi in the 12th century is aligned with animals. He loved animals, birds especially, and he thought they were worthy of our devotion. Brazen display of contempt that people had. Strange coincidence that the current Pope has the same name. Numerous stories are told of Francis of Assisi and his love for animals and the creatures that can't really care for themselves. They came upon a place where trees were filled with the birds, and he said, "Excuse me, I gotta preach to my sisters, the birds." And according to the story, the birds were drawn to him and surrounded him and said, "My sister birds, you must always in every way care for what you have, for you've been given the freedom to wing through the sky, and you neither sow nor reap, yet you eat from the fields to quench your hunger. And you drink from the streams and the fountains to satisfy your thirst. And you stay in the mountains and the valleys for shelter. And tall trees are your nests, all given to you abundantly. Therefore, always be humble in gratitude." Imagine what greater care we would give this planet Earth and what closer connection to our fragile planet Earth we would experience if we were as crazy as Francis of Assisi was, that we would pause to speak to the birds. Those who strive to save their own lives will lose them. Those who lose their lives for the sake of the coming generations will be saved. We lose our lives when we fail to be responsible people. We lose our lives when we neglect those in need. We lose our lives when we use oil as if there's an endless supply. We lose our lives when we pollute the air indiscriminately. We lose our lives when we pour chemicals into the rivers. We lose our lives when we pass along to our grandchildren a planet that is worse in shape than the one that was passed on to us. But we save our lives. Yes, we save our lives when we save others. We save our lives when we examine our behavior and we make concrete changes that demonstrate that we are truly grateful for and we're striving to be better stewards of this amazing and tremendous world that is worth caring for. Thank you, Milo.